we want to talk about something that's called cycles, its history and like what it's all about. And yeah, thank you for talking to me. And maybe you want to say a word or two about yourself and what you're up to.
Thank you. Thank you, Christoph. It's so nice to be here with you. Well, I have done another transformation in my career, and I am now an executive coach working with predominantly C-suite executives in making themselves the best leaders they can possibly be.
Mm-hmm. So you said you had one more transformation in your life?
I have had many, yes. I started in corporate, in medical, and then I transitioned into starting my own business, and I was importing the polar heart rate monitor into the United States. I was the first importer of the monitor, actually, and that's what led to cycles. And I began working with Irving Dardik at the United States Olympic Committee, and an entire program of creating health grew out of that. And that was quite a career for quite a while.
So the polar straps, it's about measuring heart rate, right?
Yes, that's right. Exactly.
Okay.
Back before it was really considered mainstream, we were looking at systemic variability. The theory at the time being that if you had a variable system, you could actually create health for your body. That if you think about a flat EKG, that would look like death. What was very popular back in the 80s was aerobic conditioning, aerobic exercise, where you would go into a target zone and keep your heart rate at a steady level.
Mm-hmm.
And what we were proposing is that that is actually training variability in your system out, which would lead to chronic disease.
So people would in the 80s with aerobic exercise, they would like shoot for like a target heart rate, kind of.
Yes, that's right. It was called a target heart rate range, and you would take a heart rate number, 280, I believe it was, or maybe it was 180. Fortunately, I've forgotten. And you subtract your age, and that would be your maximum heart rate that you should ever reach. And then you would take a percentage of that. So maybe it would be between 140 and 150. And that would be your exercise heart rate range that you should stay in. And when in working with Olympic athletes, what we found is that the athletes that had highly variable systems were healthier and more successful than athletes with a very narrow range.
Okay. And how did you track or measure the variability of the system back then?
Well, we would, excuse me, the Polar would capture the heart rate and record it. And then we could upload it back in the day to a Commodore 64 computer and actually see the heart rate graph, what the heart rate was doing. So we would do a resting baseline and then a series of what you mentioned, cycles, bringing your heart rate up very gently and then sitting down and recovering. And then after you're fully recovered, doing another one, bringing the heart rate up in different patterns over a few cycles. Maximum would be 8, and then fully recover at the end. And we would look at the heart rate variability. How variable was your heart rate? How playful in each cycle and over the entire workout?
And did you was it for you then at one point, because I was talking recently to this other doctor about heart coherence, and he showed this video where he was like showing us an EKG, but he was like commenting on it, like now it's going up and now it's like reaching this, and it almost sounded like a no sports commentator. So I was intrigued, like how much you can see in a, in the image.
You can see an enormous amount. Also, data analysis is, of course, is available. And you can look at beat-to-beat measurement, which is how they measure heart rate variability. And we started working with the New Jersey Institute of Technology to do exactly that. So we would send them the heart rate graphs. And because Polar was able to record on a beat-to-beat basis and not on an average only, we were able to measure the time between each beat. And it gives you a very, very accurate reading of how variable the system is. Now, infinitely variable is also not healthy. There's a point at which you can be hyper-reactive, and that is also not healthy. So there is a middle ground of variability that is physiological health. And if you think about a child, a little one, they'll get up and they'll run around and then they'll fall to the ground and they recover. You don't see little kids doing marathons. You don't. It is also, even in the ranges in Africa, the animals that are being hunted will run, yes, but the chase is not on indefinitely. The hunter will stop and lay down, and sometimes it's the herd that stops, and there's a recovery period, and then they go again. Everything is cyclic, and that is what is best for human physiology. It's not that we can't run distances. We can. We all know that. And can some people train for that, given their individual physiology, and be healthy? Yes, we see that. However, for the average individual, you need a lot of physiological variability.
Okay, so you're saying basically the cycles training, it's mirroring something that's in our nature?
Yes, Christoph, thank you. Exactly. That's exactly right. And so you want the ability to respond to stress. You also need the ability to fully recover from stress. And you were speaking of your meditation practice. That's part of recovery. That's teaching the body how to recover from stress and what that looks like. And with these cycles, we're doing it on board as you are stressed and learning to immediately recover, and stress and respond to it and immediately recover.
Okay, so the cycle is like giving this, like, child is getting up, stress,
Right,
child is falling down, that's the recovery.
right. Exactly. And actually, the way it came about is one of those odd stories where Irving Dardik had been trained as a sprinter. So at the end of a sprint, traditionally you walk it off, and that was cool down. And then you do your next sprint. Well, I was pregnant and I said, I can't keep walking. I'm done. And I sat down after a cycle and could not believe what I was seeing in my heart rate and what the real recovery was and what happened. And then taking a deep breath and seeing how my heart rate was responding in recovery. And I tried it again and tried it again. And the feeling was almost euphoric in the outpouring of your endocrine system in recovery. And so then, of course, we started experimenting with ourselves and other people on the program to see if they were having the same reaction we were. This was all the way back in 1985. So it was pretty heretical at the time.
Because what was the common doctrine?
The common doctrine is that if you're exercising and you sit down, you will die of a sudden heart attack. And it is true. If you are doing long distance exercise and you don't walk it off and you just sit down, there is a chance that you will have a crash of your heart rate and you will die because your recovery physiology is not trained. With cycles, we are training the recovery so you don't get a sudden crash like that.
So what is all part of like recovery physiology?
Well, so after you're stressed, some people have like an anxiety reaction, for instance, and their heart rate will stay up and the breathing is rapid for quite a period of time. That means that the body has not figured out how to recover from the stress. If it's emotional, it is particularly difficult. However, when you make the stress physical, it's easier to train the body to recover from the stress. So, for instance, today in coaching, if I'm with somebody who's talking about having a stress reaction, I will suggest to them that they do a couple of exercise cycles. So you pair the high heart rate with doing something active and not allowing your emotions to rule your physiology. If you think about fight or flight, when we got scared, we'd run or fight, but there was some physical reaction to the emotional. The emotional triggered physical. Today, we've disassociated it. So we get ourselves stressed out and crazy, and our heart rates take off, and our breathing goes up, and our blood pressure goes up. And we don't pair that with a physical response.
So many different markers in our body like are going up into like stress mode.
Right.
But we're not going into the real fight or flight mode.
Exactly.
So it's like there's this disconnect between like emotional or maybe endocrinal hormonal reaction in the body.
Yes.
But we don't have a way to express it.
Yes, exactly. That's exactly right. When you're in a meeting and you get stressed out, you don't typically stand up and run out of the room. You're sitting there and trapped, and your physiology has taken off and given you all the stress hormones you need to either fight or run away. And you're stuck with all of that going on in your body. And what happens is that your body will actually addict to the stress response. So to get its high heart rate, you'll get all upset. You need that for your endocrine system, for your body to react. We are supposed to be making those waves. In our society, sitting at our desks and working, we don't have that ability to walk around through the village and to keep moving and hike up the mountains to find our food or whatever it is to keep moving. So we artificially do it in the gym.
So you're saying basically the body wants to make these like waves, like hunting, running, eating, chilling the next week or whatever, going about hunting again.
Right.
But because we don't have this lifestyle anymore, so we're like, our body is like getting into the I'm ready to hunt and pushes all the hormones, but we're not like then acting on it.
Yes, that's exactly right. We're not acting on it. And if you think about living in nature, and we spent more time living in nature than we have living indoors, we would be in rhythm with our environment. Sun comes up, sun goes down, full moon, you might be awake more at night on a clear night, full moon and lots of stars. We would be in a different kind of rhythm with nature. And you've got animals that are night owls. It's natural rhythm, like for felines, to be awake at night and sleep during the day. And what we've learned about human physiology is as long as you stay on the same circadian rhythm, meaning the same 24-hour cycle, whatever that is, you can still be healthy. So somebody that's working a night shift, even when they're not working on a weekend, should still keep their night shift hours. It's healthier. We must addict to a rhythm.
Mm.
And that is very, very important. So when shift work keeps changing and people's shifts continue to change, it's very, very unhealthy for them. It's very, very difficult. And now that's not a theory. That is all research done on our circadian rhythm, on our 24-hour cycles.
It's the first time I hear this kind of research, that you should stay on the night shift mode.
Yes. Yes, your body takes a while to adjust. Anyone that has traveled knows that when you get thrown into a new time zone, your body wants to be on its own time zone. And it takes quite a while. It can take 2 to 4 weeks at least to really adjust. When in the societies where we move our clocks ahead and back, just an hour can throw people off. 1 hour. You can imagine traveling and suddenly you're 12 hours off schedule or 8 hours. It doesn't matter. It really wreaks havoc on your entire system. So if you're working 5 nights, you don't want to throw your body off for the next 2. Your body needs to stay in rhythm.
Okay, so how do you have clients or even yourself that like travel a lot? Like, what do you tell them how to, soften the blow of the travel time delay?
I have different clients that use different methods for themselves. Some clients are disciplined enough that I've got sunlights in lighting my room. It's full spectrum lighting. And I have some clients that will start adjusting their time zone before they leave. And they're very highly disciplined. And so by the time they get to their new destination, they're only at most an hour or 2 off. I am personally not that disciplined. I can't do it. So what I do, for instance, when I go to Europe and now I'm 6 or 7 hours off schedule, because of the way the flights work, I arrive in the morning. I get myself set up wherever I am in the morning. Early afternoon, I take a maximum of a 3-hour nap. I am exhausted at that point. I get myself up. I have dinner, if I can find it. In Europe, it's a little difficult, between 6 and 7. 7 and 8 at most, if I'm still awake. Into bed and start again the next day. And I can stay on rhythm for about a week before my body starts to rebel and it wants to go back to my home time zone.
Okay. So that's kind of like the drawback, like if you're like really in line with your home rhythms. I mean, maybe for women, it's even like menstruating, right? Like some start menstruating with the moon.
That's right. Exactly. That's right. Another example of being in phase with nature. And there's a book called The Red Tent, and it describes women during the new moon all being sent together when they were menstruating to the red tent. And the women would hang out there for a week. And then and they were in rhythm, not only with nature, but with each other. And today it's a phenomenon that happens in dormitories, in female dormitories.
Okay. So still nature's still finding its way through our
Yes,
lifestyle.
it is indeed.
And as I understood it from the book Making Waves, you were even taking people down to the equator to train with them for a few weeks.
Yes, we were. The theory being that if you are reversing unhealthy waves, the place that would be easiest to do that would be as close to the equator as you could get, where you've got 12 hours of daylight and 12 hours of nighttime. And so we would take a small group of people down to live in the Southern Caribbean. And we also went to Mexico. And we wouldn't use any artificial light. So once the sun went down, you were allowed a candle to get back to your room, for instance, that kind of thing. We would rent a home so that we had control of the environment. And we would get up with the sun and go outside and do all of our exercise outside. And then inside, and recovery would look like eating. You would eat after you exercised. So we'd all have a meal together. There would be a nap, up, exercise, lunch, recovery, up, exercise late afternoon, dinner, recovery, bed. And we kept very tight schedules because we were really trying at that point to heal people, to create health, as opposed to the mainstream program was about individuals that were already healthy and needed better alignment. Because you can feel it when you're off. And people call it work-life balance. And what am I doing to take care of myself? So nipping it in the bud before you get sick.
And you mentioned unhealthy waves. So what would be an unhealthy wave?
In terms of lifestyle, that would look like go all day long without a break. It would look like having dinner and going back to work. A few hours sleep, 4 or 5, up and go again. You're going to burn out. Your body just can't take it.
So basically, like the work is like the wave going up, 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 up. You're going a little bit down for the dinner, but then you're going like up again.
Yes, exactly.
So
You need to recover. And so early dinner and recovery and bed. And screen time, all that research has been done. You don't belong on a computer at night or looking at your phone. You really need to shut it down because all the receptors in your brain are firing.
hey, so because they're like, now we want to go down now, basically we want to complete the wave come down of the day.
Right. Exactly. It's the larger wave of the day. That's exactly right. And you have, if you're younger and healthier, most of us know that we can recover from abusing ourselves. College, pulling all-nighters, studying, doing those kinds of things. And then you sleep for a day, you get up and you go again. It's not many years after those early 20s, you can't do that anymore. And your body is just going, no, I can't do it. I don't feel well. Some of the comedians have done hysterical skits on, yeah, okay, you're in your 20s, let's go, I'm ready. I don't care where we're going, let's just go out, yes. And that as that goes along, it eventually ends up with, oh, no, I'm not going out tonight. It just isn't working for me anymore, and what that transition is. And if you're listening to your body, that's right. Go to bed.
Okay. Gotta get myself in tune with nature.
Yeah. Yes. As much as you can.
Hmm.
So that's why I've got full spectrum light around me. You can see behind me, I have windows, but I'm not in direct sunlight, which is what we need. So I set up my full spectrum light so that during the day, I am in bright light and it is healthier. So much research has been done on this, and we were really being intuitive and shooting from the hip and looking at nature and deducing what made the most sense. And it's so, I don't know, I guess a little bit odd for me, having been on the bleeding edge of proposing something that we were really shot down for, and that it was heresy. And today it's accepted. It's, of course, that's the way it is. And it feels odd that people were so resistant to new ideas and change.
Which ideas specifically? Like the more the like aligning with nature, kind of like.
Right. And the circadian rhythms really mattered, and that seasons matter, and that full moon is different than new moon, and what happens to ourselves energetically with nature without even knowing it. There's a phenomenon that emergency rooms are typically much more busy on a full moon than on a new moon. It's a higher energetic time. That we were saying aerobic exercise, continuous exercise is not healthy, was truly absolute, considered anti knowledge almost, because it was considered healthy to do aerobic exercise. How many old videos do we make fun of where people are working out in front of the TV to their videos?
But what I'm wondering is the other part of your work, which is really like getting the heart rate up, right?
Yes.
Like that still doesn't seem to be like a thing now. I mean, now we have like heart rate variability, you know, but they're not testing like how far can we get the heart rate up. They're just seeing, you know, like what's from beat to beat. Is there some variability? But you went really like all out, no? You said like, okay, if this person 30 years old doesn't get up to 190 beats or whatever, they are missing out on some part of their health.
Yes, missing out on their range. There's a thing today called high impact interval training, HIIT. And that is based on continuously getting your heart rate up as high as you can. And what we're saying, or what we've said, is that you need more finesse than that. So that, once again, in rhythm with nature, ideally, if you can work it into your schedule, otherwise you must adjust it. It's better to do something than nothing. In the ideal world, you would hit your highest heart rates late afternoon at the full moon, the week going into the full moon. And that is when you would be working out just late afternoon and getting your heart rate up as high as you can. Now, we work. Is that practical every day? Probably not. So what I work with my clients who are interested in making waves, I have them just do mini cycles during the day. So you get up and move, get your heart rate up, and sit down and recover. and that you don't want to be sitting still at your desk for prolonged periods of time. Let your body create its own waves physically so that you don't have to create them emotionally.
I see. Sometimes I told people that, like, I think it was also in the book, like running up the stairs.
Yeah.
It's just the
Yes, exactly. It's a great way. If you're in an office building or you have a two-story home or an apartment building, go run the stairs. Run up 2 flights, sit and recover. Run up another 2 or 3 flights, sit and recover.
And what I see with people that I tell it to, they're like, wow, it feels so good, because they feel their heart beating, you know, because usually we're like, don't feel it, or we're like afraid of it, like, oh, my heart is beating so fast. Like, am I dying? So,
Yes. And you know what, Christoph, if your heart is beating fast and you haven't done exercise, you have disassociated your emotions from your physicality. And it is good reason to use that as a signal to change your lifestyle. It's really important.
And what I'm also super interested in, because I understood that you were dealing with like a wide variety of people and also some like really sick people of all kinds.
Yes. Yes, we were. And that the amount of rigor that it takes for somebody that has already manifested disease to benefit from doing cycles is extreme. You really have to be devoted to this every day of your life. And there are days of recovery and weeks of recovery, but your lifestyle becomes very timed. And whether or not that is counter to what somebody sees as the full life they want to live is where the issues come in. For individuals, it's a choice, and it changes your routine. It completely changes your routine. And what is the quality of life that you really want? I remember an individual that was ill came on the program, and she was a writer, and she wrote at night, and that she'd stay up all night and write. And that's absolutely a personal choice. And why would we ever want to take her creativity away from her? No, that's not a good trade-off. And you can't stop, that's the other thing, is that it's forever. It's not a pill. You don't cure. It is something you have to do as long as you're alive.
But do you know many people who committed for life or who made like serious change in that direction?
Yes, many. And the benefits were just, it makes your heart sing when you see somebody really make a difference. We did a research project at the University of Kansas in Kansas City, Missouri and Kansas City. And with individuals with Parkinson's. And they started the program with the typical Parkinson's mask, where you don't get facial expressions anymore, and it's very difficult. And these individuals went on the program, and we recorded them. We have videos before and after, and their facial expressions coming back, and then being able to participate at a much higher level in their lives, playing cards again than they had been. It's so gratifying. It's amazing. But you really have to do the work. You've got to get up and do this every single day. And if you've got an illness, you probably need somebody in the family supporting you and doing the cycles with you and helping you.
Mm-hmm. And so also my personal background is in trauma therapy. So what stuck out to me when I was reading the book, that some people, when they would hit, like a certain higher heart rate, like 140 or whatever, they would almost hit like this internal wall, and they say like they don't want to go over it because suddenly like some emotions get triggered.
Yes. Oh, that was a very difficult learning process, Christoph, where if the highest heart rates you've ever reached are associated with trauma, past trauma in your life, where it would, of course, during trauma, your body goes crazy, right? Heart rate goes up, hormonal outpouring. That is an unfortunate experience for many people. What we learn during cycles is that if we suddenly hit that high trigger heart rate inadvertent, not knowing, we never knew that the person had had that kind of trauma and what they experienced. What happens is the trauma feeling comes back. However, what the individual knows is that the person in front of them triggered them.
Mm.
And all the negative emotions are now directed at the person in front of them, which would be one of us.
Because you told them you have to do this now.
Right. And then they're suddenly feeling this way. Those are real traumatic emotions from the past that are now being experienced in the present. So of course, it's the situation around you that has caused the trauma. And it was a very difficult learning experience for us to realize what was going on. So we started screening people differently, asking about past trauma, explaining that if there is something, it could get triggered, and this is what it will feel like, and we need to deal with it, and we need psychological intervention, that there's something buried that you need a therapist to work through with you as you're doing cycles.
So you would then get like therapists on board?
Yes, that's right. Right.
Okay.
Hopefully the individual would have their own private. If not, we would help them find a therapist.
Okay. But as I understand it also, let's say someone is like, they have maybe in school like an exam coming up, and so they're like medium triggered. They're like in the bit of arousal and in like a flat line, but then making waves, making a cycle, this could help them to break through the anxiety, like the medium level anxiety or higher level that they're feeling.
Yes, yes, absolutely. And that is one of the wonderful benefits of doing cycles. That as you start to feel the stress, you've got an exam coming up, you've got an important board meeting, you do some cycles and it realigns your physiology so that you start thinking again. And that's when we get anxious, we stop thinking. It's just the way it works with our hormones and our brain patterns. You can have, we're not talking about those moments of extreme clarity and high stress. That's not what those moments exist. That's not what we're talking about triggering. We're talking about getting the fog gone because you're stressed and now you can't think straight. And that's what people say. I'm so stressed, I can't think straight.
And what are your best ways to do like cycles? Because I'm wondering, like, what should I do? Should I be like running on the spot, or
Well, what we always did was have mini trampolines.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're not stressing your joints out so much. And you can run in place on a mini trampoline. And it's the kind of thing you can usually hide in a corner of an office or in a closet and just take out your mini trampoline and do that. So I'm talking about an office kind of scenario. If you have access to outdoors, go for a walk.
Mm-hmm.
Speed it up. Sit down and recover. Speed walk. Sit and recover. If you can get outdoors, definitely. You can run stairs, you can jump rope, you can use arm weights. Anything, any movement that gets your heart rate up. Stationary bicycles. It really depends on what shape your body is in. So if you're not great with some of your joints, you want to be careful and not stress your body out. Let's not cause any injury.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And so now I lost my thread a second.
Well, I wanted to throw out there that there is a woman in Massachusetts she's amazing and with brain function, Mel Hopper Koppelman. You can find her on LinkedIn. And
Mm-hmm.
Mel is really knowledgeable about cycles and brain activity and alignment. So she would be a resource for anyone that would be interested in learning more. Mel's on it. She's really
Okay.
great. And I wanted to mention meditation, Christoph, because you've got recovery in the moment in cycles, but then you've got recovery from the whole day and getting
Mm-hmm.
centered. And that's where meditation comes in. How do you really concentrate on recovery and bring yourself into that grounded place to get up and face your day, or go to sleep at night, or recover in the middle of the day?
Mm. So I think now it also feels like we're talking about like waves within waves.
Yes.
Like which is for me, it feels like this big concept, that I still try to wrap my head around. But so I understand that part of the discovery of waves or cycles was also with this like clamped artery, this like pre-clamping. Can you talk about that?
Yes, that Dr. Dardik was a vascular surgeon. And it was believed 70s or so that people were at risk with angina, which was the momentary clamping of your own arteries, where it happens naturally. It turns out that in research with dogs, they were doing heart surgery and they were trying to show that angina will kill you.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, what happened was they would clamp the artery of the dog before heart surgery and unclamp it, and clamp it, mimicking angina, and clamp it and unclamp it, and clamp it and unclamp it, and then do the surgery. It turned out that it was protective of the heart, and that the dogs lived longer when they had had the clamping and the unclamping. So what happens is your body is learning, is practicing protecting itself, because it will survive the clamping. And so it's preconditioned that if there is a stoppage of blood flow, your body says, that's okay, we can make it through this. And you've got longer to live if you're preconditioned with the clamping.
To me, it almost feels like philosophy to approach things in life with. So if you have this like big challenge coming up, you're doing like a little like a warm up, no? Then you do like a little bit more, and like you go the cycle a little bit higher. Is that also like something that you incorporate into your like coaching advice?
It's a beautiful analogy. Thank you. And yes, we label it practice.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're going to do a speech, the first thing you do is start to practice a little bit at a time. And what's most painful for people is I tell them to record themselves and watch it. And what are you really seeing? And that makes a wave unto itself. Until you get used to seeing yourself speak. It's okay. And then you can go out and make your speech, and you know exactly what you're doing and how you're coming across. And does your intention match your impact? What do you sound like? How animated are you? What is your vocal variety? Are you interesting? What is your story? Are you just like boring yourself to death? There's a problem.
So boring would be like not a wave. It's like flat.
Exactly. Yes, exactly. Not a wave.
So you need little edges here and there.
Yeah. Yes. Come speakers that are alive and vibrant, and they get louder, they get softer, they bring you along. No matter what they're talking about, no matter what the subject matter is, it's a story.
Mm-hmm.
And we all love stories, oral tradition. It's great.
So the like the story arcs, like whatever, doing some. Okay, I
Yeah.
mean that's the thing, no? If you start thinking about this whole like waves in life, you see them everywhere, no? It's like
Yes. Yes, absolutely. It's so powerful. I was just fortunate enough to be with a friend in Portugal, and she lives on the coast. And you are literally waking up every day in resonance with those waves. And when they are crashing, you feel differently. The energy from the ocean is different every day. And you can get it watching a flock of birds and hearing them and hearing the noise that they're making as they speak to one another as they're traveling through the skies. It's absolutely beautiful. The wind making waves through the leaves in a tree. You can see it absolutely everywhere. It's extraordinary. It's fun.
Okay. I feel we're coming to the end of our wave, maybe.
But that's the beauty of how you design an interview.
Mm,
Lead in, get
mm,
excited,
mm-hmm.
let people recover at the end, right? Then you have your close.
So we're now preparing people for their relaxation response. What would you tell people just, who wants to know more about this, who wants to get in touch with you?
You can certainly reach out to me through LinkedIn, and I am responding to messages every day. That's probably the easiest way to get in touch with me. For more academic information, I would get in touch with Mel and speak with her about the academic side of it. And I would reach out to you because you are living in the wave and working with people actively on the recovery phase. It's very important.
Hmm, thank you. That's also the interesting thing, what I always tell people, this analogy. So when you go to like a high heart rate and you're coming down, it's like you're doing that much of meditation, you know, like the breath goes down, everything goes down, calms down. As opposed, maybe when we're doing a meditation, so we're coming down from, let's say, 80 heartbeats to 60, but with cycles, it helps us. We're coming down from 180 to 80. So we have like a really big, relaxation exercise. Even.
Yes, you're absolutely right. When in our offices, what I used to do is we would all schedule meetings around doing cycles. So we would all do cycles together. Because during that recovery phase, so much creativity would come out. And we'd be talking and then stopping and recovering and letting ourselves be, and then getting excited and up again. We would be in resonance with each other. We would be cycling together physically and mentally. It was fun.
So you combine it. It's like
Yes.
you do the exercises, but then you're...
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Okay, thank you. That's a gold nugget right there.
It was great. It was a wonderful way to get everybody working in synchrony.
I see. So creating like a shared experience of people because they're going through the same motions.
Yes, exactly.
I see. Okay. Yeah, Alison, so thank you again. It was great having you. And yeah, I hope people enjoy what you shared with us.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the opportunity to spend time with you. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Bye.
Bye.